Welcome to Stoic Station. This is your space, a place for men to truly understand themselves, master their emotions, and take back control in their relationships. Today, we're diving into a powerful truth that most people never talk about. Women often don't fully appreciate your presence until you're no longer around. You might think she enjoys having you close. She might smile, laugh, even say all the right things. But that doesn't always reflect how she really feels deep down. The truth? The difference isn't in the moments you're with her. It's in the moments when you're gone. Will she miss you deeply? Will she feel a hollow emptiness without you there? Or will she just move on and replace you with someone else? Far too many men fall into the trap of believing that constant attention is the way to keep a woman. But in reality, it's the distance that often reveals your true place in her heart. So, how can you really tell if a woman genuinely values you, or if you're just a temporary option? And more importantly, how can you use that insight wisely to stay grounded, centered, and in control of your relationship? Let's explore 7 key signs a woman shows when you're not around. But before we jump in, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on valuable content. If this message resonates with you, drop a 1 in the comments. If you see it differently, leave a 2. I'm always open to hearing your thoughts. All right, let's dive in. Sign number 1, when she starts questioning your value. When you take a step back, a woman doesn't just miss you. She's forced to face a powerful, uncomfortable question. Was he really worth my time? You see, women don't miss a man just because he's gone. They miss a man whose presence brought real value to their life. Think about it. If you're just another guy, always texting her, constantly available, giving in to everything she wants, then honestly, you're easy to forget. Your absence won't leave a dent. But if you're a man who brings excitement, leadership, and a deep sense of security, then, when you step away, something shifts. There's a void, a silence she can't quite ignore. At first, she might not even notice. Life continues. Other guys still message her, but over time, the energy changes. She starts asking herself, what was it that I liked about him? Was it his confidence, his ambition, or maybe the way he made me feel? Those thoughts creep in. Suddenly, she's not as carefree. She begins to analyze your value in a way she never did when you were always around. And here's the crucial part. If you're a man who stands firm in your principles, if you don't hand out your attention for free, if she has to earn your time, then your absence creates a space no one else can easily fill. She begins to realize, other men don't bring what you bring. They don't have your presence, your energy, your masculine strength. That's when it hits her. That's when she starts to miss you, deeply. Because once a woman feels that loss, she begins to crave what's missing. But on the flip side, if you're always too available, too eager, too focused on pleasing her, she won't feel that same emptiness. In fact, she might even feel relieved, realizing maybe you weren't as valuable as she thought. Here's a common scenario. A guy dates a woman for a few months. He's always there, always trying to please her. She enjoys it but doesn't really appreciate it. Then one day, he pulls back. Texts less, focuses on his career, his goals. At first, she shrugs it off. A week passes, then 2. She sees he's doing just fine. He's not chasing her. He's not trying to win her back. Suddenly, she starts questioning her place in his life. And just like that, his value skyrockets. Because this is the hidden power of absence. It forces her to see you with clear eyes. Either she realizes you're a man she truly values, or she realizes you were just a guy she never truly respected. A high-value man understands this. He doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't chase. He doesn't prove himself. He lets his presence be a privilege, not a given. So when a woman starts questioning your value, that's the moment she begins to realize. She may have lost something rare, something real, something not easily replaced. And that's the difference between a man who's forgotten and a man who's respected. Sign number 2. Her ego takes a hit. She might act like she doesn't care when you step away, but don't be fooled. Her ego definitely does. Women are used to being pursued. It's what they expect. Men trying to impress them, win them over, or at the very least, checking in with a, "Hey, how's your day?" So what happens when you stop doing that? When you go quiet? When your attention disappears? Her mind starts to spin. At first, she brushes it off. He's probably just busy. He'll text me soon. But then hours pass, then days, then a whole week, and that's when it hits her. Why hasn't he reached out? See, in today's dating world, most men operate from fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of being forgotten. Fear she'll find someone else. So what do? They constantly check her stories. Like every post, send those bland, empty good morning texts just to stay relevant. But a high-value man, he doesn't play that game. He knows his attention is a reward, not a given. And when he pulls it away, she feels it. Here's the key. When a woman no longer feels in control of your attention, her ego takes a hit. Now, she won't always show it directly. Instead, she gets subtle, strategic. She might post thirst traps on social media, hoping you'll notice. Dress a little more provocatively, just to prove she's still got it. Flirt with guys she never cared about before, hoping word gets back to you. But here's the truth. It's not about them, it's about you. She's testing the waters. She wants to know, do you still care? Will you bite? Real life example. A guy and a girl used to talk often. She liked the attention, but wasn't truly invested. Then one day, he stops reaching out. No texts, no calls, silence. At first, she shrugs, but after a few days, she starts watching his stories again, liking an old post just to pop back on his radar, mentioning his name in group chats, hoping he'll hear. She's not missing him. She's missing the validation. And when he doesn't take the bait, when he stays focused, grounded, unbothered, her ego gets bruised. Here's the real takeaway. A high-value man resists the urge to chase. He lets her sit with her own insecurity. He lets her wonder why he's not acting like every other guy. And that's when the dynamic shifts. Because now, she's playing by your rules, not hers. Sign number 3, she feels the shift in power in most dating situations. Women hold the upper hand. They know the game. They know most guys will text first, will double text if they're ignored, will keep trying, hoping to win them over. And most men, they accept this dynamic without even realizing it. But the moment you step back, everything changes. The power begins to shift. At first, she doesn't think much of it. She assumes you'll come back around, that you're just playing it cool. But as time passes and nothing happens, she starts to feel something she's not used to. Uncertainty. And here's the truth. Women hate uncertainty. When they think they're the ones in control. Most women walk into relationships with the belief that they have options, that if things don't work out, they'll just replace you, that you weren't enough of a loss to stress over. But when you quietly pull away, No explanations, no chasing, no checking in. You force her to confront a brutal thought. Maybe I wasn't as important to him as I thought. And that stings. Suddenly she's asking herself, was I being pursued, or was I the one doing the chasing? Why isn't he reacting like every other guy? Did I completely underestimate him? The more she feels that loss of control, the more it consumes her thoughts, because women aren't used to being left behind. They're used to being chased, validated, wanted. But when a man flips the script, when he refuses to play the validation game, he breaks the system she's always relied on. And suddenly, she's the one checking her phone. She's the one feeling confused. She's the one wondering, why isn't he like the rest? And the more she wonders, the more emotionally invested she becomes. This is why self-control is such a powerful weapon. A high-value man doesn't act from desperation. He doesn't chase. He doesn't need to prove anything. He gives his attention intentionally, not automatically. And that single act, it forces her to rethink everything. Because here's the truth. Attraction isn't built by being constantly available. It's built by knowing when to step back. So she feels that subtle but undeniable shift in power. And once she feels it, there are only two outcomes. She comes back on your terms, or she walks away, proving she never truly valued you. Either way, you win. Sign number 4. Her attraction to you increases. Here's what most guys don't realize. When you take a step back, a woman doesn't just forget you. In fact, her attraction can start to grow. Not because she suddenly falls harder out of nowhere, but because distance plays tricks on the human mind. We crave what isn't easily accessible. We desire what's just out of reach. Women aren't drawn to men who smother them with attention. They're drawn to emotional intensity. And one of the most powerful emotional triggers that fuels attraction is uncertainty. That not quite knowing where she stands with you. That emotional tension. If you're always there, texting back instantly, liking every picture, constantly reassuring her. There's no mystery, no challenge, no spark. She knows she has your attention, so she doesn't feel the need to chase it. But the moment you pull back, when she realizes she's no longer the center of your world, something shifts. At first, she brushes it off, goes about her day expecting you'll reach out eventually. But then, time passes. She picks up her phone, expecting a message. Nothing. She sees you online, but you don't message her. She posts a story. Still, silence. And now, she finds herself thinking about you more than she expected. Here's the twist. It's not about what you did. It's about how she's reacting to the void you left. Because this is human nature. When something is too easy, we take it for granted. But when something becomes scarce, we begin to value it more. That's exactly what happens when you stop being overly available. Now, she might not act on those feelings right away. She might even tell herself she doesn't care. But deep down, something's already shifted. The man she assumed would always be there isn't giving her that same feeling of security anymore. And that tiny fear, that creeping thought that she might be losing you, it starts to take hold. And here's the paradox. That fear of loss, it supercharges attraction. The men who understand this, they don't come across as desperate or needy. They don't try to force a connection. They know a woman's emotions are tied to emotional highs and lows, not just consistency. Women aren't drawn to men just because they're nice or available. They're drawn to men who make them feel something real, even when they're not there. And once she starts feeling that attraction, she's already invested. more than she ever planned to be. Sign number 5, she starts testing you. When your absence starts to get to her, she's not just going to sit with those feelings. She'll test you. Now, this isn't always conscious. It's instinctual. She wants to know, does she still have control over your attention? These tests aren't random. They're deliberate, even if subtle. They serve one clear purpose. She's trying to figure out, will you break the silence? Are you still emotionally invested? Or have you really moved on? At first, it'll start small. She likes an old post, watches your story, every single one, casually drops your name in conversation with mutual friends. These little moves, they're crafted to provoke a reaction, without making it look like she's chasing you. But if she doesn't get the response she hoped for, she turns up the heat. Out of nowhere you might get a message. Hope you've been doing okay. It's been a while, how have you been? Sounds innocent, right? It's not. These aren't just friendly check-ins, they're tests. She wants to see, will you respond eagerly? Will you jump at the chance to reconnect? Because if you do, if you respond too quickly, too warmly, too available, she knows she still has the upper hand. But if you reply briefly, neutral, unbothered, detached, or maybe you don't reply at all, that's when she starts questioning everything, and the more she feels out of control, the more intense the tests become. She might show up at places she knows you'll be, post cryptic quotes or stories aimed directly at you, flirt publicly with other guys just to see if you'll react. Why? Because if she once held the power, and now she doesn't, she's trying to figure out, can I still pull him back in? Where most men slip up. Here's where a lot of guys mess up. They think these tests mean she wants them back, so they take the bait. They reply too quickly, try to rekindle something, or worse, fall back into the same old patterns that made her lose interest in the first place. But a man who understands the game, he doesn't chase, he doesn't fold. He knows these tests aren't about rebuilding something real. They're about regaining control. She may not even want you back. She just wants to know that she still could. He doesn't ghost her, but he doesn't give her certainty either. He keeps his responses brief, his energy calm, and his focus on his own life. The moment everything changes. This is the turning point. She realizes you're no longer under her influence. You're not reacting. You're not chasing. And that changes everything. If she truly values you, she'll have no choice but to step up and show it. If she doesn't, then she never really did. And you just saved yourself from wasting another minute. Either way, you win. Sign number 6. She starts considering other options. Let's be real. If your absence doesn't stir anything in her, she's not just sitting there in silence. She's already seeking attention elsewhere. And this is the moment that catches a lot of men off guard. They think, just because they once had her attention, she'll wait, she'll miss them, she'll come back. But here's the harsh truth. Women always have options. So the second she starts to feel you pulling away, one of two things happens. She realizes your value and starts to crave your presence. Or she decides you weren't that important and redirects her energy to someone else. Here's the truth most men don't want to face. If she replaces you quickly, you were never a priority to her in the first place. That realization, it's your wake-up call. Where men often go wrong. The moment a guy suspects she might be exploring other options, panic kicks in. He starts texting her again, checks her socials, tries to prove why he's the better choice. And the second he does that, he's already lost. Because here's the truth. Women don't respect men who beg for attention. They respect the man whose absence speaks louder than words, the man who never had to compete because he knew his value from the start. Why knowing your value matters. If she quickly turns her attention elsewhere, that's a reflection of her, not you. A high-value man doesn't chase validation. He doesn't lie awake wondering if she's comparing him to someone else. He knows he's the prize. So instead of obsessing over, is she thinking about me? Does she miss me? Ask yourself a better question. Why does it even matter? Because if you're focused on your purpose, your growth, your mission, you won't lose sleep over a woman who was never really meant to be in your world. The big lesson. Women respect men who don't beg, who don't chase, who don't compete for attention. They respect the man who stands firm, who walks away when needed, who values himself above all. If she truly values you, she'll feel that loss. If she doesn't, then she was never meant for you anyway. And that's something to be grateful for. Think about that. Sign number 7. She either submits or moves on. This is it. The final stage. The moment where everything becomes crystal clear. After all the emotions, the tests, the doubts, the subtle power shifts. A woman will do one of two things. She'll fully surrender to your value, or she'll walk away for good. There's no middle ground, no more guessing, no more in between. If your absence truly made her feel something, if it opened her eyes to your worth, then when she comes back, she's different. She doesn't return with games, no vague messages, no manipulative tests. She comes back with newfound respect, because now she understands something she didn't before. You're not a man who can be taken for granted, and you'll notice the shift. She stops testing you. She softens, more feminine, more cooperative. She meets you halfway, not because she has to, but because she wants to. She no longer sees you as just another option. She sees you as the prize. But this is where many men blow it. They think they've won. They get excited. They jump back in, full energy, like nothing ever happened. And in doing that, they give away all the power they just built. Here's the key. Stay calm. Stay centered. If she returns, let her show you she's worthy of having that space in your life. Because if she truly values you, she'll prove it. And if she doesn't, if she walks away, that's not your loss. That's your freedom. If she can run to someone else without hesitation, if she replaces you like it's nothing, she was never truly invested in you to begin with. Ask yourself this. Do you really want to chase someone who bails the moment you stop playing by her rules? Do you want to fight for a woman who only values you when it's convenient for her? Because if your absence doesn't make her feel anything, your presence was never that meaningful to her in the first place. And in that silence, you found something powerful: clarity. A high-value man doesn't beg to be chosen. He lets her choose. And if she doesn't, he walks away without hesitation. That's emotional control. That's masculine strength. That's the difference between a man who leads and a man who follows. The men who win in this game, they're the ones who don't let a woman's decisions define their worth. If she comes back, great. If she leaves, even better. Because a man who knows his value, he's not afraid to lose anyone. He knows the right woman will recognize his worth, without needing him to beg, chase, or prove a thing. Here's the bottom line. When you pull away and she either submits or moves on, you don't lose, you gain clarity. You see her for who she really is, a woman who truly respects you. She'll make the effort to keep you in her life. A woman who doesn't? She was never meant to be in it at all. A man who values himself understands one simple truth. He never has to beg to be someone's choice. Your absence is the ultimate test. It strips away the games, the masks, the manipulations. All that's left is the truth. And her reaction tells you everything you need to know. Is she truly invested? Does she respect you? Does she value what you bring? This truth may be hard, but it's necessary. A woman who can easily replace you was never really yours. If your absence feels like nothing to her, you were just an option, never a priority. So remember this, a man who knows his worth never settles for being just an option. He stands tall, he walks with purpose, and most importantly, he chooses himself. Let me ask you this. How many times have you seen a woman lose interest the moment a man starts chasing her? How many men panic when they feel her slipping away, only to push her further by being too available? It's a cycle, and the only way to break it is to own your value, even when no one else sees it yet, because true worth, it's constant, whether it's recognized or not, and your job is to recognize it first. From my perspective, this is a sobering and at times painful reminder that many men desperately need as they search for their true worth in relationships. Because this isn't just about love, it's about dignity, self-respect, and emotional sovereignty. Let's be clear. The message here isn't about manipulating women with silence or playing games to win someone back. It's about rebuilding the relationship you have with yourself. It's about stepping back, not for attention, but to say, I deserve respect, and I won't trade that just to be loved in a shallow way. We've been taught that love means constant presence, endless effort, proving ourselves over and over. But real love, healthy love, can't survive like that. It can't thrive when one person is always trying to earn their place, while the other just keeps taking. True attraction doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from knowing who you are and refusing to accept less than what you're worth. So for me, the takeaway isn't, pull away so she'll miss you. It's deeper than that. It's stop trying for people who don't truly see you. Step back so you can see them and yourself more clearly. And if they come back, it's because they finally recognized your true value. But if they move on, maybe that's the real gift, the one your silence was meant to give you all along. In the end, when you choose silence and step away, you're not just creating a gap. You're asking a powerful question. Am I truly worth keeping in your life? Because if you're a man of value, confident, principled, not easily swayed, then your absence doesn't just go unnoticed. It leaves an imprint. It makes her think. This withdrawal, it isn't weakness, it's a test. It shifts the dynamic. Suddenly, you are no longer the one holding on. She is. You become the one being evaluated. And as she starts to feel that loss, posting for attention, dropping subtle hints, showing signs of missing you, you remain grounded. You don't react impulsively. You don't chase. You don't cave, because your silence is like a mirror. If she truly cares, she'll come back. And if she forgets you easily, maybe you never truly mattered to her in the first place. In the end, there are only two outcomes. She realizes you're not easily replaceable, or she walks away. But either way, you don't lose. Because a man of value doesn't beg for love. He doesn't fear being left behind. He doesn't need to be chosen to know what he's worth. He lives by one simple truth. When you pull back, your value doesn't disappear. The truth reveals itself. So here's what I want you to do. Drop a comment below and share a real moment. When a woman's reaction to your absence revealed her true intentions, did she come back with respect and genuine effort? Or did she show you she was never really invested to begin with? I'll be reading every single comment and replying to some of you. Because this is a conversation men need to have with each other. Open, honest, unfiltered. And always remember this: a man who knows his worth never begs to be chosen. Stay strong, stay focused, and above all, protect your power. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll see you in the next one.